Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. You have been the one. You have been the one for me. Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend.
Oh, we're back again this week. As you can tell by the introduction music, this is one of, if not the worst days of my life. What about you, Craig?
I mean, where do we even start? It's been a bit like Ross and Rachel for Friends. Will it happen? Will it not happen? And this was effectively our she got off the plane moment, and devastated.
Yeah, I'm gutted, but I'm chuffed for Boyle because he's away to make his money, and it's really hot in Saudi Arabia, so he's going to wear a lot of sun cream, I think, Craig, for his ginger skin.
Definitely.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
there's a lot of people who have their own opinions on the Saudi coin, as it's said, but do you know what? If any of us were offered the same kind of move to quadruple, even, possibly, more than quadruple our wages, we'd all take it. So no, he's
Exactly.
he's certainly going to be missed. Certainly going to be missed. But he's like you. I know you've actually got a wee bit of a personal relationship with Martin Boyle as well, and I mind that night in Mines for my birthday when we were sending him videos and voice notes and that, singing his song. He's contributed a lot to the club on and off the park over the last 7 years.
It's been a long time.
Aye, and no, definitely wish him well. He more than deserves it.
Yeah, and since we've not done an intro, welcome to HibsTalk Extra Time, episode 6. I don't think an intro was very fitting for this episode because this is the saddest, the most depressing episode I think you'll ever hear. Well, the first 5 minutes anyway.
Yeah, aye.
Will be, but yeah,
almost be like a
you're saying,
eulogy, except he's no deed. He's just left us.
I know. Yeah, I was on the phone to a guy from a website today doing an article.
We'll link that interview and
we'll link it. Yeah, the name escapes me at the moment, so
yeah,
we'll link it. But I said that to him on the phone. I said, I'm talking as if he's died, but he's not died. He's just left Hibs. But no, Martin Boyle. That's obviously the big news today. Anyway, it's been the big news all week. It looked like maybe we were going to be able to keep a hold of him, but yeah, the news has come in this morning that he's away. It's been widely reported that it's a £2.5 million fee. You're happy with that? There must be maybe a little bit of a backhanded clause, a buyback first refusal clause for Hibs. Hopefully there's something like that, but
well, going by his interview with Hibs TV, he was certainly flirting with us about coming back before he's even left.
Exactly. So, Craig, initially, what is your thoughts on Boyle leaving, and does his leaving, like, what do you feel about
it? It's disappointing. I think there's, like I said to you when I texted you earlier when we were going to do this, I'm going to play devil's advocate a tiny wee bit with it. From a Hibs fan perspective, he's a massive loss. Like, you can only see what he's brought to us in the last, especially the last sort of 2.5 years. He really sort of, when we came back up to the Premier League, he started, he was on his way under Lennon, and then he got the bad injury. He came back and he got injury again. And then, he had that game at Tynecastle where he scored twice. And it was really under Jack Ross that he proper kicked on. There was always a player there, but, I remember doing a pod with Gavin Dave ages ago. talking about his final product, and it was nowhere near good enough. Like the numbers that he was putting out compared to the positions and stuff that he got into wasn't good enough. But certainly during the last sort of, I'd say maybe from Heckingbottom getting, in the run up to getting sacked, and then from Jack Croston, especially last season as well. I mean, last season he was genuinely unplayable times. And you only need to look at his performance at Hampden against Rangers, to that's what he can bring. But like I said, the devil's advocate side of things in terms of the money wise, there's no many clubs in Scotland will be getting upwards of circa £2 million, almost £3 million for a soon to be 29-year-old who's had 2 really bad injuries. And like I said, out of the 7 years, he's only really had that consistent form for 2.5 of those.
Yeah, we touched on that a wee bit last week, didn't we?
It's weighing that up, but no, first and foremost, that like as a fan,
disappointed.
Majority of our plays went through him over God knows how long. And like you said in his interview, every time he got on the ball, you were off your seat. He's the kind of guy you go to watch the football for. He might make, that's why a lot of people love Scribble, because he could make the same run 10 times in a game and fail 9 times, but that one time he'll do something.
Yeah. I've got down here just his Hibs career numbers. We touched on it a wee bit last week, but I'll repeat it again. 265 appearances, 63 goals, 54 assists, 1 Scottish Cup, 1 Championship trophy, and 1 new hairline. So it was a pretty decent return for Boyle. Although most of those goals coming in the last 3-4 seasons, last season especially, and this season. So
it was 24 over the last 12 months, wasn't it? Through 2021.
Yeah. So
he had his most productive. That's a third of his total in 1 year compared to the previous 6. So no, he leaves.
He's going to be a big miss, on the pitch as well as off the pitch too.
He leaves. As anyone who was attached to the club in 2016, they're going to be forever held,
in legend status.
No matter the biggest part, the smallest part, whatever part they played in that day. I mean, you only even need to see it now with somebody like James Keaton's. I think it was his birthday a couple of days ago, and it was just Hibs fans wishing him, happy birthday, because he's known as the one who ran the other way.
Yeah.
So players like that are always going to be held in really high esteem by the support. But Boyle, for me, Boyle's up there, close to Hanlon and Stevenson.
Well, the amount of dedication he's given to the club, this has been 7 years, and there's probably been times throughout those 7 years where he could have gone. There's been times throughout those 7 years that we could have
let him go.
We could have chucked him, from his injuries or whatever. But there's been loyalty shown on both sides, and I think, I think he loves the club. He's got a real attachment. He had a real attachment with the fans, and that's a huge part. And I can't think of many, if any, Hibs fans who didn't like Boyle. He was a great player. You could tell he was a character. That's going to be difficult to replace as well, because if you look at the changing room right now, you're probably lacking proper characters. You had Boyle.
Nobody comes screams at you. Porteous is probably the only one. But even with Boyle, in terms of what you're saying about the loyalty side of things, he signed 2 contracts in the last 18 months, I think. Yeah. And I'm sure he's obviously been handsomely rewarded. But he's also acknowledged that clause that was never, that was spoken about, but no one knew. So he's,
similar to get rid of that for
similar
us.
To what Jason Cummins done. When he made sure he signed a new contract that removed his release clause. So he made, obviously it's different levels of money, but still something's better than nothing.
It's the same principle, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that for me speaks volumes about Boyle's character, not only as a player of the club and as somebody who grew to love the club, but also as a person. That when you look at, for example, across across the road in Gorgie, the situation going on with John Souttar, you can almost see parallels with, you know, the injuries that Souttar's had, and he's now leaving on a Bosman, whereas Boyle's actually signed contracts to make sure that if he did leave,
that doesn't happen. Aye.
Hibs are going to be handsomely rewarded. And, you know, if you could have said that we'd have got upwards, of, you know, and when we signed him, that this guy will take you to a Scottish Cup and make you millions, you'd have looked and thought, no,
I know,
like no chance. So it
I
goes
remember he was
goes
allergic to goals when he first joined, wasn't he?
aye.
One that jumps out at me was, I'm sure he was clean through against Falkirk one time at Easter Road, skinned the goalie and he put it wide. Do you remember that one? I remember turning to my dad and saying to him, I was like, I didn't think this guy will ever score for Hibs.
And then a year later, he pulls the one out, like the one against Livingston.
Yeah, an absolute
volley.
corker. But yeah, talking about that, have you got any favourite memories? Any favourite Boyle memories? Apart from him singing, wishing you a happy birthday.
Apart from wishing me a happy birthday, aye. Probably because I was there with Alfie. It would be his 2 goals at Tynecastle.
Yeah.
You know, Alfie's still got an unbeaten record at Tynecastle, which I don't think a lot of Hibs fans will have. Granted, he's only been to 2 games, but he's almost catching up with me on wins, and he's only been to 2. So that or the Rangers game. Obviously, I wish, you know, for the vaccination reasons, I couldn't go.
Yeah.
So that's a moment I would have loved to have been there for. But just his general demeanour around the club. You know,
definitely
the interview on Time for Heroes where they're speaking about his penalty, and he said that Alan Cohn told him to pick a spot and drill it. And as he was walking up, he was like,
he changed his mind.
He meant to go to the keeper's left, and he low keeper's left, and he ended up actually going high keeper's right.
Yeah.
So, and obviously the videos and the pictures of him lying in states around Edinburgh, and the interview with you and Cameron. I think Danny Handlin or Stokesy was getting interviewed, and he said he was a Jambo, and Boyle went up, off then, and went back into the forehand. He's just been somebody who's been proud.
Ken what it gets handed about all the time, but he was someone who got Hibs. He just got it.
You do. You get that.
He leaves with all our well wishes. We actually reached out to you, the listener, today just to see some of your favourite Martin Boyle memories. I've got some of them here. Callum says that his favourite was his double at Tynecastle and obviously the hat-trick in the semi-final. Aidan says the hat-trick in the semi-final when he showed that he was the best winger in the league. I think he was probably the best winger in the league last season as well, but you know, I think people really started to sit up and take notice of him this year, and it was rightly deserved because I think he's been brilliant for the last 3-4 years anyway. Leo says he's absolute raker versus Livy, like you were just talking about a couple of minutes ago, probably a miss hit, and then it was the celebration was a trademark Martin Boyle messed it up knee slide when he tried to knee slide and fell flat on his face,
like with Nisbet at Hampden.
Yeah. Kevin says the Boxing Day 19 Squirrel Derby, and Jeff as well says he's Bluter versus Livy. So there's quite a few good memories in there for Boyle. Good goals, good times for being a Hibs fan. And yeah, if you're listening to this, Martin, thanks for everything that you've done for Hibs. It was a pleasure having you. You know, you leave with the well wishes of certainly me, and definitely with probably all Hibs fans. So no, thanks again, and we'll welcome you back with open arms in a couple of years' time.
Keep the number 10 free for you, Martin.
Exactly. Let's retire the number. But if someone was to come in and take that number, let's talk about potential replacements for Boyle. So one that I've got down here is Regan Charles Cook of Ross County. What do you know about him, Craig?
If I'm being honest, right, the most that I know about him is the fact that his name gets mentioned at least 4 times a day in our group chat, and has been for the past probably 3 weeks or so. I'm going to be honest, like similar with Harry Clark, I didn't know too much. I don't know too much about him. I know that he is a wide player who likes to sort of commit and take people on, which I think is
Yeah.
what we need, for a Boyle replacement. I know Gav said in the chat earlier on about Mikey Johnston, and actually another couple of people have said in other chats about Mikey Johnston, but he's just a completely Martin Boyle
I
was
think
somebody who
he's too different.
commits defenders and takes them on, and goes down the line.
Yeah.
Whereas Johnston's more of a cut inside,
Yeah.
kind of trying to sort of flit into that, almost like that inside forward area rather than an out and out winger. So I would need to refer to you about Charles Cook in terms of what he's actually like, because
Yeah, well, if I'm not mistaken, he signed with Ross County last season, and the first time that I seen him was the COVID game at Ross County last season away, where I can't remember the score, but I know Kyle McGuinness hit the bar, and Charles Cook, I think he was playing on the right hand side that day, and he tore us a new one down that side. And he's just a player that, when Ross County win, he seems to be
at the
in or
forefront.
around the score sheet, or setting them up and stuff. He scored the other night against Motherwell as well. But he's 24 years old. He's scored 7 league goals in 20 appearances this season. In his career, he's played 152 times and got 25 goals, and that's across the Conference, League One, and the Championship down in England. And obviously, up in Scotland, he's a left wing according to Transfer Market, but can also play on the right wing as well.
So he's left footed.
And no, he's right footed, but he plays on the left. So
right.
he's if it goes by Transfer Market and Ross County play him on the left, he plays as an inverted winger.
As a Mikey Johnston type, aye.
Yeah, but I think he was playing on the right the other night, so I don't know whether Ross County tend to play him on the left predominantly or on the right, but he can play on both wings, and it says on Transfer Market that he can play in the 10 as well. So that's something for me, that if we were to replace Boyle, the player that needs to come in needs to be able to cover a certain amount of positions, because Boyle was good on both lines and through the middle as well. So it's all very well and good saying that you can play there, but if you're effective there, you need to be effective, basically, if you're going to replace Boyle. But the numbers look good. He's still a young guy. It would maybe be a little bit of a jump for him. I don't think he's been at a club as big as Hibs yet in his career. But if Harry Clark can make the jump from Ross County to Hibs, then I wouldn't be surprised if Regan Charles Cook could as well. He looks like a tidy player on the ball. I don't think he possesses as much pace as Martin Boyle does, but then that's another thing that's going to be difficult to replace, because there's not many players who are as quick as Boyle. But yeah,
well, as you see with like Murphy, for example, though, you didn't need to have that bit of pace to beat a man. Like, in the instances where Murphy does, he uses his head to get that 5-yard head start, rather than because he's not got that burst of speed and he can't maintain. Yeah. But you've seen it we'll come on to it, but for the goal last night where he evades like 2 or 3 challenges before giving the ball to Doig. So you don't need to be absolutely rapid, as long as you've got it upstairs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I know that Gav from the B show, the Monday show, is a long-term admirer of Jamie Murphy as well. He waxes lyrical about him in the group chat all the time.
I actually think he's Jamie Murphy's his favourite player.
I think as well.
Yeah.
Did they not get Jamie Murphy printed on the back of his shirt this year?
I think he did say in the group chat as well, like, I would rather have taken less money for Boyle because I know that we've got Jamie Murphy waiting. And the wings.
I think that was what he said. Something like that anyway. Moving on to the next possible replacement, and it's one that's been spoken about. Last night was the first time that I'd heard anything about it. After I got home from Easter Road last night, checked on the group chat, and there was a link in saying that Dimitri Mitchell was linked to a move to Hibs. Former Hearts loanee from Man United, now at Blackpool. What did you make of that?
I liked him at Hearts. Well, I didn't like him when he was at Hearts, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm sure the season before he went on loan to Hearts, or the season that he went back to Man United, he won like there's like a prestigious young player award that the Man United like academy players get, and I'm sure he won it. I don't know if it's maybe the Bobby Charlton Award or
it's something like that.
Something like that. So
I remember seeing that actually.
I think his second season he was unfortunate with an injury. I'm sure he got a bad injury.
Yeah.
In his second season on loan at Hearts. But no, from what I remember, he was quite a direct sort of.
I think he played more of a fullback role.
Yeah,
for Hearts,
more like fullback / wing back. I don't think he's an out and out winger. In terms of, you know, he knows how to defend as well.
Yeah, well,
I think Blackpool have still got an option for an extra year on him. I'm sure I read somewhere, but it depends. You know, what does this mean for somebody like Doig, or is this, you know, even though they're saying it's not a replacement for him, is it a case that Mitchell will play left and then Mueller can play over to the right alongside him a bit?
It was a weird one because obviously I've had this written down earlier on, and then it's come out. Patrick McPartland has tweeted that Hibs' interest in Dimitri Mitchell is not for a replacement for Martin Boyle. But when I was doing my research on Mitchell earlier on, it seems now that he's been deployed as more of a left midfielder, right midfielder for Blackpool rather than a fullback. So that's an odd one for me, unless maybe Jamie Murphy's heading out the door.
We've got James Scott as well, who's
James Scott.
I don't know if it's. I mean, I think we spoke about this when Maloney was appointed about the way that Belgium play, and they've got, like, on the right hand side, for example, somebody like Mounier, who's not a fullback, but he's not a winger.
He's not a winger at the same time,
which is what Mitchell could, because, you know, Stevenson and Doig for me are left backs. They're not.
Mitchell kind of fits that mold, doesn't he?
Yeah, I would.
So does Cadden, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, definitely. Especially, I know we'll come on to speak about the game, but Cadden after last night as well.
Cadden will be the sorest guy in Edinburgh today, I think.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, so Dimitri Mitchell, just a little bit more of a deep dive into his stats. 25 years old. He's not scored this season. And in 124 appearances across his career, he's only notched 12 goals. But bearing in mind, most of his career he's been a fullback.
Yeah.
So again, he's still deployed as a fullback, but I think mostly he plays as left midfielder and right midfielder for Blackpool. Kind of a utility man really across up and down the sides of the park. But, you know, it might be one that we see come in. If he does come in, you know, I'll give him a full backing. But, you know, the comment that he made when he joined the Hearts saying who are Hibs might come back to bite him in the arse.
That's what you say though. Like, look at the first thing that Rocky said when he signed. Like, okay. I know we won the cup and we're the big team, and that's what you say. You say that to get the fans on board. Like, Danny Swanson was supposedly a Hibs fan, and there's a photo of him going about kissing the Hearts badge. Yet when he signed for Hibs, everybody was delighted. So
yeah, it's just one of these things. And I do agree with you. I did like the look at him when he was at Hearts. He's my kind of player. He's a dynamic, gets his cell up and down. He's my kind of fullback.
Interesting to see what this means for Doig as well, though.
Yeah, I think time will tell. I thought Doig played well last night, but then again, we'll come on to that a little bit later on. Next up on the list, what I was doing was I was going down the list of Belgium under 21s just to try and fabricate a link between us and someone decent from the Belgium setup. So I've pinpointed this guy. His name is, and I'm really sorry if I butcher this name, Anas Zarug. I'm not too sure how you pronounce it. He's currently playing for this is another one, a Belgian side. Charleroi. That's it.
Charleroi. John Collins managed him.
Did he?
Yep.
Oh, well, there's another Hibs link then.
Yep. Benji was there as well at one point, I think.
Brilliant. He's 21 years old. He's got 3 goals and 21 appearances this season. He's a regular for the Belgium under 21s. He He can play on both wings and in the number 10 again. There's the Maloney connection as well with the Belgium 21s. I'm sure Rocky played in that setup as well. So transfer market has his value as 1.08 million euros. But with the Boyle fee, Craig, is spending more than our record transfer possible?
I don't see why not. Ron Gordon did say when he came in that over time he wanted to double the wage budget and, you know, have us going at the top of the league. And to do that, you need to spend money. We've shown that
You do.
in in recent times, and even last year with the COVID situation, you know, spending money for Nisbet. We've obviously spent a good amount on Melkerson, or the Haaland regen, as I like to call him.
Yep.
Harry Clark's loan from Arsenal won't have been cheap. We've got an option to buy with Rocky Bushiri as well.
Yeah.
Dylan Tate we spent money on. Chris Mueller won't be cheap. So
yeah, no, well, if you believe what you read, Chris Mueller's on about 9k a week, isn't he?
Well, I don't believe that.
Well, I said if you believe what you read.
Yeah, I don't
didn't
believe
say
that.
You did believe it, but no, I'm sure you did read it somewhere.
But no, I'd love to see us break that sort of that record fee. Just to put you on the spot right now. Just to put you on the spot right now, do you know who it is?
It's De La Cruz.
Yeah. How much was it?
850, was it?
700.
700.
700.
Ah, well. We're near it. We've nearly broken it. I'm sure we.
No, the highest before that was Keith Wright.
Well, how much did we pay for Melkerson? 400.
Oh well, that's undisclosed, isn't it?
Oh well, undisclosed. Let's disclose it. 400.
Aye. Wait until the AGM. Wait until the AGM and we see the accounts.
But yeah, just talking about spending. Do you think there's any other parts of the pitch that we need to strengthen during this window? Is there a part of the pitch where we're light, a part of the pitch where we're lacking quality?
I don't. At the moment, no. I think we very quickly went from looking at a squad that's quite thin on the ground to actually looking quite bloated in certain areas.
Yeah, I think so as well. But you know, with obviously Boyle leaving, it's kind of taken a turn downward. It's looking a bit south again. You know, you look at that squad and you're thinking, you know, Kevin Nisbet's not in the greatest of form. Christian Doidge isn't scoring goals. We've no got a Kyle McGuinness in the team because he's injured. Where is the goals coming from? Yeah,
no, I agree. But I think when you get, you know, based on his performance last night, when Mueller gets up to speed, he'll be exciting for us. He definitely was getting into the right areas at times. We've got, like you say, you know, there's also the rumour about Doidge potentially going to Dundee as well. That's came up again there. Jason Cummins is away to Australia, I've seen. So they're needing a striker, especially with don't know what's going to happen about Griffiths with him as well.
Yeah.
So I think, and then looking at the team last night as well, I know Hallberg only played at centre back because of, you know, the injuries and suspensions to the rest of them, but it said a lot that I thought Campbell looked a lot better than him when he went slotted back in there later on in the game.
Yeah, I mean we'll get onto that in a little bit. I think,
but like that's talking about the team sort of thing. It depends on how long McGuinness is out for, because I still think we need a bit of creativity, and especially if we're signing somebody. I think Mitchell fills that extra bit of pace void if we bring him in. But I'd like to see us get another bit of creativity in the middle of the park, because as you see for last night, he spent 120 minutes picking the wood for the bench at his arse. Like Scott Allen's, for me, is finished at Hibs. I don't see how you can be in the position we're in last night and have a player like that at your disposal and not use him.
Do you think that speaks more about where Scott Allen is now at this stage of his career, or does that speak more about he's just not in Sean Maloney's plans?
I think it's more that he's just not in Maloney's plans. As we all know, it's a hard one for Scott, given all he's been through. You know, the fact that he's still, you know, training day in, day out with us. You know, I know he only played a little bit, but did he come on in the cup? He did come on the cup final, didn't he? He came on for like the last maybe 5-10 minutes or so. But the fact that he's still able to get on and perform in a National Cup final speaks volumes, and that's not even including his heart condition. That's going back to his, the fact that he's played with type 1 diabetes throughout his entire career. To play at the level that he has been testament to him as a person, and as an athlete. But unfortunately, I think that through circumstances not of his own making, I just don't.
Hibs is up.
Yeah, I don't think he fits the Maloney system. He's not tracky backy, as they say. Whereas somebody like McGuinness, as creative as he can be, is also a bit tracky backy.
Yeah, well, Craig, let's give the people what they want to hear. I need some names. If you want to strengthen the squad, who you bringing in?
Names.
So if you're
it's a tough one, because
you're wanting a creative midfielder, I think that's the consensus of a lot of Hibs fans.
Jamie McGrath, probably. But I know he's
away to Blackburn,
turned down,
or Wigan.
He's turned down. Aberdeen pulled out. Pulled out of talks because he basically made it clear he was going to. He didn't want to. He was going to go down.
He wasn't included in the St Mirren squad as well the other night because he wasn't in the right headspace.
Yeah, so is
that the kind of player you want to have?
No, but that's the kind of person that obviously we went from in the summer. So that's the kind of player that we did want. In terms of that sort of mentality, you can go one of two ways. Like you say, you can go the McGrath route where his head's not in the right space, or you can go the Boyle route where you knuckle down, have good solid conversations with the club, and then get what you want out the end of it. So
I did wonder in terms of the McGrath thing, though, was that I was torn between thinking that after we brought in Henderson, I wondered if we'd went for McGrath, missed out, and then went for Henderson, or if the interest in McGrath was purely Matthew and Jack Ross in the summer.
I think it was the way that deals came about. You need to think that it's one of those ones that came when you're playing Football Manager and it pops up with 3 hours to go on deadline day, and it's like an agent offered you a player, and you're like, oh, actually, 5-star potential. Let's bring him in. And it was almost like that. The make weight was for Wright and Allen to go the other way.
Exactly.
Because to be believed that Scott Allen was in Paisley, ready to sign his contract. But I mean that we've done that deadline day to death.
Yeah, we have.
And the shambles that it turned out to be. But that's
Jamie McGrath's your man.
No, that kind of player, that guy who can play in between the lines, good at set pieces. That's the kind of player. But to pick a name, I couldn't pick a name at my arse at the moment. But
no, I've been putting you on the spot now.
Yeah, someone of that.
Someone like that.
Yes, someone
a creative, advanced midfielder, not
like Tom. If we could find like a budget Tom Rogic, that would be unreal.
Be happy with that. I'd be happy with Tom Rogic as well, actually.
Aye,
normal Tom Rogic. Aye. But so I mean, we are lacking a little bit, but we definitely are in a much better place now than where we were, when the cup final came round. So you've got to be happy, and I think anyone who comes in between now and the deadline is going to be a bonus to what we've already brought in. Mm-hmm. Once we've got Melkerson's work permit through and Clark is fit, the squad's going to look a lot stronger than it is. So let's just hope that we bring in a budget Tom Rogic and everything's fine.
Or Tom Rogic.
Or actual Tom Rogic if he wants to come and play for Hibs. But as we were talking about earlier on, we had Hallberg playing at centre half last night in our 1-0 win over Cove Rangers after extra time. You watched it on the telly. What was your thoughts?
I thought that we should. I mean, there was a blatant onside given as offside when Dodge scored. The ref I thought was honking for the entire night.
I've actually got that down as well. I've written down here, officials honking.
Let's just get that out the road to start with. Constant guesswork about throw-ins, about corners, goal kicks. There was an instance where I think it might have been on your side where Campbell tracked back and made a challenge. He won the
Yeah,
ball
I got the ball
clearly,
and they gave a free kick to
and he gave a free kick to
Cove.
Cove.
Yeah,
So for in the one instance, it wasn't even if the ball had went out and he hadn't given a foul, it would have been a Hibs throw-in
yeah.
because Campbell's
It was a
hit
great
it.
challenge.
It was a brilliant challenge, but he gives you a free kick. Like
Yeah.
I say, the offside, constant. Even like we challenges for a Cove perspective where they're maybe shoulder barging and their Hibs are getting a free kick. Like the ref just seemed like if that's the standard of lower league refs, like keep them away from the Premiership because they're shite enough as it is in the lower league without having that. But
wasn't good enough really.
Taking that away, I thought that Cove played really, really well. I know that we had majority of the ball and we had a lot of pot shots and stuff. There was only one shot on target difference between the two. I felt that in the first half they looked particularly dangerous. Megginson and was it Mason who was sort of playing off him. Doing. I thought Megginson gave Hanlon quite a tough time actually in periods of the game, but.
No, I don't think he gave him an extremely tough time. I thought
no, but there was a couple of times where Paul he committed himself too early, or he sort of put in a challenge and was easily sidestepped. So I think I think it was totally different first half and second half. Second half they dropped off, I felt, and we had the more bulk of the play in the second half.
Yeah, I think that was due to just fitness. Cove are part-time team, so. Fitness obviously does come into play, but I've got a couple of points down here. Chris Mueller, we touched on him earlier on. I thought for playing a full season in the MLS to then only having, a month or so break, and
it'll be 2 months. Is it not like the start of November that they?
But I mean,
November, so he's had 2 months. No, but he's had 2 months without playing.
Yeah, 2 months without playing, but I think he only was given like a month's break, and then he was right back into training again. So for that, I thought he did really well. He looked knackered after about 60, 70 minutes, but he was running himself into the ground. He was working really, really hard. Had a great chance at 0-0 to make it 1-0. I think he had a couple of chances, maybe in the second half as well. But
a few pot shots.
He looks a tidy player, doesn't he? It was the best day of my life yesterday, actually, being able to see him in a Hibs strip for the first time. So that's after me missing his unveiling at Easter Road because I went for a piss at half time and I'd came back up. My dad was like, "Oh, you missed Chris Mueller," and I was just about in tears. So
no, he does. He looks. The first like 5 minutes or so, he had a nice wee link up with Cadden on the right hand side, and he's definitely got a nice. A few wee deft touches on him. There was a time in the second half as well, or it might have been the first half, where he got the ball played into his feet with his back to the midfielder, and he just like Ronaldo chopped it behind him, and he got fouled, but he left him for dead. Like if the Cove player doesn't make that challenge, he's gone. So no, like I said earlier, once he gets fully up to speed, I reckon he'll be exciting for us.
What I liked about him was he's not a one-trick pony. He didn't go down the outside all the time. He didn't cut inside all the time. He was going outside, coming inside, try to play then through between the lines. He was making those intelligent runs between the defenders as well. So I thought he had a really good game last night. I thought he was deserving of the man of the match performance, the man of the match accolade, sorry. Because I did
he also looks
man
comfortable on both feet as well. I know he's predominantly right-footed, but he looks like he's not one of these players who, as soon as they get on their weaker foot, they're scared to swing a leg at it.
He was giving his all though. He was giving his all.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love the fact that his next game at Easter Road is going to be the derby as well. He's going to come out to a full Easter Road, and I think he's really going to thrive in that environment. But moving on from Chris, I don't really want to move on from Chris, but let's move on to another man who made his debut last night, Ewan Henderson. I thought maybe looked a little bit out of match fitness. I'm not too sure if his last game for Celtic was the Betis game, and if so, that was a wee while ago. I thought he was good enough, solid on the ball, just maybe lacked that little bit of cutting edge, that you expect from a Henderson. So
That'll
there's
come.
definitely promising signs there.
Yeah, you'll see that. I mean, there was times like what we said in the group chat at the time that we didn't touch on Mueller, but Henderson was the same. He was always showing for the ball.
Yep.
They were never hiding. They were
I thought,
never
I thought he, for such a young guy,
behind.
he's got a lot of confidence. Ewan Henderson for a young guy.
No, he does.
And I think he enjoyed being out there turning out for Hibs last night. So
yeah, no,
it all points
good
towards those two. It genuinely does point good towards those two, and I was happy with what I've seen from him, and he's obviously only going to get better from here.
Definitely.
Another one that I want to touch on is Chris Cadden. We said it earlier on. He's going to have the sorest muscles in Edinburgh the day. He is the fittest man in Scotland. He was up and down that line for the whole 120 minutes. And me personally, I thought it was his best game in a Hibs shirt. He gave everything, getting into those positions that Boyle usually gets into. In the advanced right section of the park. I think this new Maloney formation is really going to benefit someone like Chris Cadden. What do you think?
No, I agree. I definitely agree. When we've spoken about Cadden previously, being like we're not quite sure what does he offer. He's going to be one of the ones that I think really benefits from Maloney's sort of 3-4-3 system.
Yeah.
Because he's got that protection behind him of a right-sided centre half, and he'll also have a potential, right winger, inside forward, or whatever in front of him to allow him that space to get up and down. And he linked up, like I said in the first half, he linked up with Mueller. His final ball isn't the greatest.
Can be worked on.
In terms of energy levels, like he was. If it wasn't for Mueller,
I think
Adam was a very, very close second for me.
Definitely. And another couple of quick fires before we move on. Hallberg centre back, can he be an option there?
No,
didn't think he covered his own glory.
Yeah,
I think maybe Maloney's vision there was to have a central midfielder who's got a bit about him to be a ball playing defender. I appreciate the balls to put him there.
Mm-hmm.
I know we were playing lower league opposition. But they could have easily, just aimed for him, torn him apart. But I thought he was okay. I don't think he had a great game. Obviously,
again, he's another one who's there's a lot of players that played last night who aren't match fit, who have missed, who haven't played a great deal of football in the past 6 months or so.
Yeah. Definitely. So not an option going forward for centre back.
No, not for me. That when we've got Clark, Porteous, and Bashiri all to come back. So and McGinn as well. So there's 4 or 5 defenders, and McGregor wasn't even in the squad.
Yeah, I wonder why. I don't know why.
Might be time up.
Who knows?
Darren, maybe.
Who knows? And finally, just on the Cove game. The deciding moment, a decent run from Jamie Murphy into the box, popped it out to Josh Doig. Nice delivery into the box and finished calmly by Kevin Nisbet back on the score sheet again.
Yeah.
I think you could tell a lot of his frustrations by his celebration.
He needed
with the fingers in the ears, obviously trying to block out a lot of the criticism that
blocking out the hiders.
Blocking out the hiders.
What he's done.
Blocking out a lot of the criticism that he's been getting recently on social media. Is he back?
It's too early to say. I know that Maloney's been blowing smoke up on like nothing over the last week or so, telling about if he's, if Maloney's going to be successful at Hibs, Kevin Nisbet is going to be really integral to that. So there was instances in the game where he definitely has his confidence is definitely shot to bits in certain areas. I mean, that chance where he was through, where he puts it past the post, Kevin Nisbet last year, you're putting your
he
mortgage
slots
on
at
and
home,
burying
doesn't
it.
he?
You're putting your
Aye.
mortgage on and burying it. So here's hoping that, you know, between Maloney, Caldwell, Gray, and the rest of the backroom staff, they can sort of blow smoke up him even more to get him fit and firing, because he's definitely, you know,
At the end of the day, he's our best. He's our best goal scorer in the squad.
he's still probably, you know, in terms of goal scoring, he's probably one of the best in the country. You know,
definitely.
he's shown it in
He's
League
lethal,
One,
really.
he's shown it in the Championship, and he's shown it
In
in the
Premier League.
Premiership. And then he also showed it, you know, with his first touch for Scotland against Holland, he scored.
Definitely.
So it's just about getting him that confidence. And he's obviously had a terrible time over the last year and a bit with, you know, losing his dad, going through COVID, you know, having to go through that with losing his dad, who he came, you know, who he said was his closest person, closest friend. You know, he's had to deal with, you know, losing a couple of cup finals with Hibs and all of that. So here's hoping that even though it's against Cove, can kickstart his, you know, get him firing for the rest of the season, because we need him.
Definitely. So next up we've got my moan. It's going to be a short one, short and sweet. And my moan this week it's about those Hibs fans on Twitter, those Hibs fans at the game who do nothing but get on the players' backs. There was loads of them around me last night.
I knew you were going to do this. I knew it.
There was loads of them around me last night. And I'm not saying that they're not Hibs supporters or Hibs fans, because, you know, if they're going to the games, and they are, but, you know, you go to the games, you need to get behind the players. There was folk shouting that Mueller was playing shite last night. There was folk getting on it in Nisbet before he'd even touched the ball. There was a lot of anger and frustration being aimed towards Joe Newell. I know he didn't have maybe his best of games last night, but I still think he was a key part of what we were doing going forward.
Everything goes through him in the middle of the park.
Exactly.
But no, I agree with you, because I've, you know, when you see folk on Twitter being like, this is embarrassing, we should be steamrolling these, you know, our budget dwarfs theirs and all that. And it's like, for me,
work like that.
That just shows a complete ignorance to your opposition. Like,
it does.
You know, somebody like Fraser Fivey in the middle of the park, he's no shite. He was playing for us a few years ago.
He was playing for Dundee United, 2 seasons ago?
He went through a couple of really bad injuries as well.
Yep.
You know,
Shea Logan as well. I know he wasn't playing last night.
You know,
Mitch Megginson is a championship level at least.
It works well. The only reason that players like him and Rory McAllister have played up north for so long is because they can make more money playing part-time football and working than they would as a full-time football player.
Exactly.
You know, Rory McAllister's banged in double figures for probably the last decade or so between League Two, League One, and the Championship. So it is a complete ignorance of your opposition. But it's the same people who moan at us for no turning over Cove, but will moan at us for getting turned over by Rangers or Celtic, whose budgets dwarf ours in comparison to how much our budget dwarfs Cove's.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree, yeah. And the other point as well I wanted to make was that folk are, well, I mean, I don't know if it was so much on Twitter, but there was a couple shouts at the game of Maloney doesn't know what he's doing, etc., etc. But I mean, he's been in the job for 4 games and he's won 3 of them. So to those people, I just say, listen, just grow up.
Aye.
Craig,
we're all partial to a boo, we're all partial to a shout.
Definitely.
You know, we're all partial to getting frustrated.
Opinion, but
like, I'll trust Sean Maloney's judgment more than I'll trust a 55-year-old bus driver.
Exactly.
Who played youth football.
Who pressed in pants.
Aye, who played youth football for his local YMCA when he was
someone like Stuart Aitchison, you wouldn't trust his judgment.
Aye, Stuart Aitchison, who played at junior level.
He's played on the PlayStation. That's his level. Right, okay, so moving on.
I like how we keep dropping these wee bits in just to make sure that the rest of the boys are listening.
Yeah, exactly. If you are listening, boys, I want you to put in the group chat a sad face and a face with sunglasses on it as well.
Like what I did earlier.
Like what you did earlier on when you were talking about Martin Boyle. So, Craig, just to wrap us up here, We'll just go through a few listener questions, if that's all right with you. Quick fire, last 5 minutes or so. Callum asks, do you think we're going to reinvest some of that Boyle money and potentially break our record transfer fee to find a player or two that can make up for what we've produced? Touched on that a wee bit earlier on. Do you think we will do it this window?
Maybe not this window, but in the summer, I think we will.
I think so too. Aidan asks, how long do you think it will take for Sean Maloney's style to really click? Seems to be a lot of passing for him with absolute no end goal in mind, which I don't completely agree with. I think that's the way that football's adapted to nowadays.
This is where it comes to like the lack of understanding, maybe not lack of understanding of football, but if you've got, if you're trying to play fast attacking football through a group of 11 bodies within a 25-yard space, and even then they're not spread out across the park, they're in an even more contained space. So you're talking about potentially 11 bodies in the sort of dimensions of the 18-yard box.
Exactly.
It's no easy to do.
It's difficult.
But no, I think you'll be looking at probably the summer.
I think so, yeah. It's obviously going to be difficult for him to implement his style halfway through the season where, he's not, this squad isn't his, this squad is what he's inherited from Jack Ross. So it's going to be difficult for him. He's going to then need to reassess in the summer to see what else he needs to then implement his style better. But moving on, Kevin asks, thoughts on Chris Mueller? Showed some good flashes and was always wanting the ball. Could be a serious player once he's fully up to speed.
He knows his onions. He's on the same page as me.
I think Chris Mueller is the greatest player of all time. Definitely the best player I've ever seen play for Hibs.
He's the greatest American export, Illinois export since deep dish pizza. Yes,
he is. Brilliant. Wonderful player. I've got some of them in the freezer, actually.
Horrible.
Next up, Cal's actually asked quite a few questions here. The first one, the most important one, what would Liam's dream addition to the food kiosks be? And I have been thinking about this all day.
I'm going to guess, right? And this will see how well I know you, right? I'm just going to go straight out there. I'm going to fling it out. I'm going to go for the doner hoagie.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's got to be the doner hoagie.
I knew
it. If you don't know what the doner hoagie is, it's a wrap with chips, cheese, and doner meat with garlic mayo and chili sauce.
Who was the weirdo that got salad in it the other day?
It was Callum.
Was it Callum?
This question, funnily enough.
Irony.
So yeah, it would be the doner hoagie added to the kiosks, closely followed just by normal kebab, pakora, stuff like that.
But not that shan chicken kebab that Billy had, because that was atrocious.
No, that was terrible. Billy, who's in our group chat, sent in the picture of the shanest chicken kebab that you've ever seen in your life.
It looked sad. It actually looked sad.
He did say that it tasted good, but I don't believe him.
No, I don't believe him.
Callum then asks, how do we replace Boyle and who should we be looking at? Is there anyone in mind that you have that we've not mentioned today?
No. Short answer, Callum, no.
Good answer.
Ask a better question next time.
Well, here is his next question. What players do you think have left Hibs with the universal good wishes that Martin Boyle has? John McGinn and who else? And how do you earn that?
Scott Brown. I think you'd say Scott Brown.
Yep. I would say so. Would Jason Cummins maybe be there?
Yeah, I would say Cummins. Cummins did as well.
I mean, it doesn't matter what you think about him now, or what you think of Scott Brown now. But when they left the club, I think they left with a good taste in the mouth.
Scott Brown's move to Celtic had been announced, and he scored against them on the last day of the season.
And he celebrated.
And that was strange. That was really strange. Stephen Fletcher, Gary O'Connor.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot, but in terms of the way that they'll be, the way that they're looked at in terms of the club moving forward,
I think it depends.
McGinn, I would say probably McGinn and Boyle are probably on the same sort of level. There's only certain people who would get a proper, when they wheel out like ex-players and that at half time to do the
Who would get
happy
a real
Hibbage
good
off,
reception?
like who would get a proper cheer and a proper applause? Like players like McGinn, Boyle. I'd probably say McGinn. I get Cummins. Cummins was alright. A lot of people feel that was soured when I'm going to Rangers, but
But it doesn't matter what's happened since then.
At the
when
time,
they left the club.
Yeah, I would say Cummins. The only ones that I mind, Riordan was probably a bit because he left for a pittance.
He left for Celtic. Yeah, Kevin Thompson as well. But let's not talk about that. Keith asks, do you reckon Boyle would still be at Hibs if he was playing for Scotland rather than Australia? Just thinking because international football would partly be the reason he's gone to Saudi Arabia, less travelling. I don't think so.
No, because
I think if he'd played for Scotland, he would have been away from Hibs a long time ago.
Yeah. Plus, you're not getting offered 30 grand a week to play for Scotland over Australia. I don't think that conversation holds up much weight, to be honest. Like that potential, that kind of scenario. I don't think playing for Scotland would have changed that job.
Yeah. And finally, Billy asks, are fans being more Oh, Billy, you've not typed this very well, mate. Are fans being more negative to the team at the moment, not backing the club in numbers, and those that do attend, some feel the need to constantly get on players' back and boo our own, in brackets, Nisbet, close brackets. Paul Hartley even said that the Hibs fans turning on them last night helped them. I think that you're always going to get...
It's in your moan, isn't it?
Yeah, you're always going to get those people going along to the games who are the boo boys and are constantly, giving it a bit. But, these are professional footballers and they know how to cope with that. I don't think it would make too much of a difference. I think if those people stopped booing the team, we probably would get on a little bit better. But, these are professional players and they need to deal with that. But that'll wrap us up for tonight. Just to add to something that we spoke about earlier on, that article that was written that I contributed to earlier on is Kick360, and you can find them on Twitter at Kick360AU. It's an Australian football media site, so they wanted the Hibs fan scoop on Martin Boyle. But thanks very much for joining me, Craig. It's been a pleasure again.
You're welcome, mate. Anytime.
What are you up to tonight?
No. Absolutely no. Probably something play the PlayStation or something. What about you?
Nah, nothing, mate.
I've not got Alfie this weekend because his mum's unfortunately caught COVID, so child free.
Oh well. At least you've got peace and quiet in the house over the weekend.
Always.
But best wishes to Alfie's mum.
Always.
Has Alfie got it as well, or is he isolated?
No, Alfie's fine, but he's because he obviously us having the kids here, we didn't want it to be a mix.
Yeah.
And potentially them catching it, or us, because that's our 3-month sort of antibody thing expired now.
Yeah.
For having
it. All
it.
right, well.
So I'm gutted. Mate. I'm gutted he'll not be here. I didn't like it when he's not here, but I'll see him next week.
Yeah. Just got to look at the big picture, mate. But
yep.
Again, if you've made it this far, thanks very much for listening. Catch us on Twitter at HFC Talk, on Instagram at HFC Talk, and on Facebook at just HibsTalk. So, yeah, thanks again for listening. Thanks for joining me, Craig, and we will catch you on the flip side.